be talking about how I moved to California at 23 years old, just a year after college. In this video, we will be diving into the 3 things I did to successfully move out here. Bit of background. I graduated from University of Colorado Boulder in May of 2024. Then I stayed in my college house for those last few months, and then I moved out of my college town in August. After that, I moved in with my fiance and his parents and saved up money. I got a full-time job. I was working 5 days a week and was very, very lucky and grateful to have been able to stay at their house. Although I didn't have a set plan when I wanted to move to California at that point, I knew it was going to be around a year. I knew it was going to take some time to save up, figure out where I wanted to live, like where I was going to work, and all of those details. I mentally prepared for that, and it was going to take me time to financially prepare for that as well. Around the 6-month mark, my siblings lived in Las Vegas, and so they ended up being in a position where maybe they were going to need to move out as well. We started planning around November, December. We weren't sure if they were going to find another roommate or even want to move to California in the first place, but it was in talks. And me and my fiance were like, that would be really helpful to have them move in with us, and then we can split rent, and it would be way more achievable for us to move out there, because rent in California can be very, very expensive, especially Los Angeles. It was like in the works for a little bit. We weren't really sure, but ultimately around February we were locked into all move in together. So my fiance and I flew out to LA February 6th to start apartment hunting so we could eventually move out in March. Mid-March was our move out date. Once we had that move out date, then all the planning came before that. Once you have your move out date set, then you need to plan and you need to budget and you need to save. You need to have a lot of money to move out to California. I would suggest having $5,000 to $10,000 just to move, depending on obviously where you are. You're gonna need first month's rent, safety deposit, U-Haul truck. I had been saving up for, I think I saved up 8 months total before I actually moved out to California. In that time, we researched areas that we wanted to live in. We looked at costs for budget trucks versus U-Haul trucks, budgeting gas for that because we were also taking our 2 cars out there, and the flights and hotels needed to stay while we were apartment hunting, and then also save up at least 3 months rent after we were there because I didn't have a job secured yet. Totaling around $3,000 to $4,000 was what we were looking at just to move. I would recommend having a lot more than that if you can. Some people have moved out to LA with $1,500 to their name. I would suggest having at least $5,000 to move out. So once we had all that budgeting done, then it was on to step 2, apartment hunting. And this is where it gets complicated. Apartment hunting, you have to figure out a few things. First, how many bedrooms and bathrooms do you need? So we have 5 of us total, so we were like 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. That is what we need. 3 bathrooms would be great, but we can survive on 2, so we've got that set. Other amenities that we decided on, we don't want carpet because my sister has a dog and she'll pee on the carpet. I was really set I want a dishwasher because dishes add up very quickly and I'm not hand washing everything. What else did we decide? And enough room for us a decent sized bedroom for me and my fiance to have a bed and 2 desks. In-unit laundry would be really nice, but not necessary. On-site would be fine. And having one of those sinks with like the nozzle, I really wanted one of those. So yeah, figure out your amenities. We set on we were looking for, our budget was $3,000 to $5,000 a month for a 3-bed, 2-bath. So if you know anything about LA, that was a little bit hard to find. In like a safe neighborhood, ease, like we're looking for public transportation options because not all of us have cars. We're looking at parking. That was another amenity that you should worry about is parking. Not every place comes with parking. My fiance already had a job in Culver City lined up, so that's kind of where we based our search in. I also wanted to be on the west side because I want to be close to the beach and it's a little bit cooler down here. And I wanted to be close up to Burbank because I was looking at a few jobs in Burbank. So west side was where we focused our search. So neighborhoods including Burbank, Culver City, North Hollywood, Venice, Santa Monica, everything on the west side was what we were looking at. But we were all over the board. Anything within our budget that was 3-bed, we did look. Before we even flew out to California to look for places, we mostly used Zillow and Apartment List. There are a couple other options that you can use, but that's what mostly Zillow. And we started a Google spreadsheet and we put in the Zillow listing, the address, the price, deposit, if there are pet fees, application fees, square footage, number bed and bath, other amenities like a pool or a gym. If there was a backyard option, because that was another thing we needed, was a backyard or a patio. Having that organization tool helped a lot. What we did was when we planned our trip, we flew out for maybe 4 nights, 5 days, something like that, and we game planned. So we made this list, we made this Google spreadsheet with all the places that we wanted to look at, organized by neighborhood, and then scheduled our tours based on that. I think one day we hit all of like the downtown, close to downtown apartment. And the next day we would focus more like Culver City area. And then the next day we're more like North Hollywood area. We tried as much as possible to organize it and hit neighborhoods one by one. It wasn't always perfect. You know, not everywhere had great touring dates or times. So we were still in the car for like 100% of the days. We were just driving around everywhere because LA also has traffic, but that's how we decided to do that. Some neighborhoods that were highly recommended to me were Silver Lake Echo Park, West Hollywood, Brentwood, Santa Monica, and Venice. I would have loved to live in Venice, but I do not have Venice money. Silver Lake Echo Park is where I was told a lot of the young college people live, so people in my age group, and that has rang true. A lot of people live up there. It's very artsy, very cool. But again, that's more on the east side, and I wanted to be on the west side. So we explored some options over there, but we ultimately chose the west side for our reasons. But when you're looking out in LA, you choose the neighborhood that hits all of your needs. Another advice I got, which we didn't really follow, but I think it rings true, is to live where you want to live, because your job is always going to change. So if you're trying to live somewhere close to work, yes, that drive would be nice, but your job is always going to change. Or your job might change more often than your living situation. So something to think about. And then we very quickly realized that we did not want to live downtown. Downtown was scary. So all in all, I think we toured between 15 and 20 places. Once we saw all of those places and noted all of their amenities and all of their application processes were and their fees, we narrowed it down ultimately to 3 places that we really wanted to live. So the very first apartment that we toured, we loved, but they told us that they already had an applicant that was kind of far in the process, and they warned us about that first. So sadly, that kind of knocked it down for us, is that we don't want to pay for all the fees and go through the application process if they're already in talks with someone pretty seriously. So that narrowed it down to 2 places for us. One was a more expensive option, townhouse, and the other one was a renovated apartment. And we put in those 2 applications while we were still in California. Once you do that, you just gotta wait to be approved, and then we flew back to Colorado and waited for that process to go through. Ultimately, we got approved for both places, but we decided to choose the renovated apartment that was more within our budget and went through with that. They approved us, and then we put down the deposit and we had an apartment. So now you have your budget, your apartment. Now you need to finalize your moving expenses. We're gonna need a budget check big enough for 5 people that was able to tow one of our cars, and then we're gonna drive one of our cars. So my fiance's parents helped us drive the U-Haul truck, towing the car, and then my fiance and I drove our second car. So we had 4 people helping us move. So we decided to go with a 16-foot truck that could tow a car, and that ended up being about $15,000, just that. And then we budgeted out about, it was like $400 just for gas, because we were driving the truck and the car. So we needed gas for both of those cars, with a planned stop in Nevada to pick up my siblings. And then we would drive the rest of the way to California. So we budgeted all of that out, budgeted food. You need to save and budget, find your apartment, move, and then you need to find a job. Finding a job was gonna be the last step. Once we were out there, I had enough saved up to have about 2 to 3 months of living expenses saved up. When I first started out here, I was doing remote editing work for a company already based in Los Angeles. I had been doing this before in Colorado. That gave me a little bit of cushion while I was out here. And so while I was saving up in Colorado, I was also applying to jobs already. Once I had that move out date, I was applying to jobs nonstop. I probably applied to 200 to 300 jobs before I moved out here. But luckily, the week that we moved, there was an open job interview where everyone can go to there was a new restaurant opening up in my neighborhood. And so I went to that, did the interview. A couple days after that, I had another interview lined up that same week because I'd been applying to jobs so far in advance. Those job interviews went well, and they both offered me positions. Ultimately, I took the restaurant and I started work. So moved out mid-March, started work late March. So that was lucky for me, but not everyone is so lucky. So if you can, as much as possible, have a job lined up before you move, because it is high living expenses out here. So planning is going to be your best friend when it comes to moving to Los Angeles. I don't recommend doing what I did, but ultimately it did work out for me. So maybe it'll work out for you. I don't know. My advice is know your financial situation, whether you can afford to live by yourself or if you need roommates, and find those roommates. Know your neighborhoods. Where do you want to live? Do you want to be on the west side close to the beach? Do you want to be closer to city life? Do you want to be in artsy Silver Lake area? Know the area that you want to live in. Do your research. If you can, if possible, come out and visit before you move and test out those areas for yourself, because the internet doesn't show everything that those neighborhoods are going to be like. And know your non-negotiables when it comes to apartment hunting. Your amenities are going to be everything. You're going to be living there for a while, so you want to like it as much as your budget allows. So decide that before you start looking into apartments. And ultimately, try to have a job before you move out here. All of that is going to help you be successful in your move to California, especially LA. Once you're out here, the other advice I have is if you do know anyone out here, ask them questions about where to live, because they're going to know too. I was able to move to my dream city 8 months out of college, and I'm very grateful and lucky to have done that. Hopefully this was helpful, and if you have any other questions, comment them down below. Bye!